I recently had the chance to play Fatal Frame Mask of the Lunar Eclipse, which is the only Fatal Frame game I hadn't played yet. Now, just as a little disclaimer, this series was actually my first horror game, so it holds a very special place in my heart. And I have sort of a love-disappointment relationship going on with it right now. I was not a huge fan of Maiden of Blackwater, making me a little bit hesitant as I went into this game, because this is a series I really want to be good. And I'm happy to report I feel this one was much closer to the original 3 than Maiden of Blackwater was. So, in this video I'm going to talk about 4 things I think matter, which should help you decide if this game is worth playing for you. The 4 segments we're going to talk about is gameplay, story, visuals, and sound. And by the end I'm going to tell you what kind of gamers I would recommend this game to, and hopefully you can decide if this game is worth playing. In the background of the video, you're going to be seeing me playing through the prologue and a bit of chapter 1, so don't worry about any late game spoilers. So, let's start with the story. Many years ago, 5 girls went missing on this island. They were thankfully found by a detective, but none of them has any memory of what happened that fateful day. Now, many years later, 2 of the girls are dead, and the other 3 return to the island to try to figure out what happened to them all these years ago. And the detective returns to the island at the request of one of the girls' mother to go find her. And the story is split up into these chapters. You're never playing all of the girls together, but you follow their different stories as they explore the island. And it's actually quite handy that as you change characters between chapters, the game actually gives you a recap of what you were doing last and what has been happening in that character's story up to that point, so you never feel massively lost. And after you play Chishiro, the detective, for the first time, you also unlock the notebook, which is a really handy item that allows you to just read up on some of the information you found so far. And out of the stories, I think the detective was actually my favorite story. Though all of them were really good. I really love the lore about the festival, about the things that went wrong there. I like the stories of all the different ghosts, and the infirmary that you end up exploring and seeing all these little hints of what was going on there. And honestly, I found the ending to be quite satisfying. Now, there are 2 endings, of course. One when you first finish the game, and then you can get a second, more extensive one if you finish the game again on a harder difficulty. But the ending cinematic is good. It's not quite as good as Fatal Frame 2, but it's still quite good, and the ending song is lovely. And every chapter of the story felt like it was opening up something new for me. It was giving me some new, dark information, and while the ritual in this one is not as gruesome as some of the rituals in the other games, it is still quite dark. And it was just really a treat getting to open up these areas and learning more and more of the history of the island. Which leads us into gameplay. The gameplay is pretty much the same as all other Fatal Frame games. You explore an environment, you have a camera which you can use to fight the ghost, or if you're playing the detective, you actually have a flashlight you can use to kinda shoot at the ghosts. I found the flashlight mechanic actually to be really fun. Both the camera and the flashlight can be upgraded, so you get rewarded for doing extra exploration, because then you're gonna find things to upgrade your items. But ghost fighting is pretty much exactly the same as previous games. Now, this game originally came out on the Wii, so sometimes it can feel a little bit funky when you're fighting. And I definitely ran across several ghosts that were just really annoying to fight. One of the things the game tells you is oh, if you hold down this key, I'm gonna lock onto the ghost, which it does to a degree, but the game does lie to you, because a lot of the ghosts will actually, right before they attack, kinda disappear and then move just a smidge to the left or smidge to the right, and the lock-on mechanic does not follow them. So just keep that in mind. I found it a little bit annoying, but overall on normal difficulty the fighting was not very difficult. And honestly, I would recommend a higher difficulty if you want to get more of a challenge, because I did not really struggle with any of the enemies or the bosses, except in the rare cases where I got stuck in an awkward area. and I had to fight enemies that kept on coming out of the walls, and it made it just kind of hard to line up a shot on them because you can't focus on them if they're inside a wall, but sometimes you're stuck in a very tight corridor and you can't leave it because in some areas the doors will actually magically lock as you are fighting a ghost. So I found this at times extremely frustrating. But overall I found the game not to be difficult, and I would recommend a higher difficulty if you want a good challenge. Outside of fighting, we see a lot of familiar things from the series return, taking photos of locked doors and having to figure out where the place in the photo is. There is a new piano minigame that you have to play, which is basically typing on your keyboard in a rhythm. If you're bad at rhythm like me, this can get really hard. But this minigame shows up several times, getting harder and harder each time, and I found it to be, doable. Though by the end it was getting really, really challenging for me, but I also have no sense of rhythm, so it might be easier for you, especially if you have a musical ear. All over the building there are dolls hidden, like these tiny little dolls in red clothing. They're apparently cursed, and you have to find them and take a photo of them. This is completely optional, and I believe if you get enough of them, you're going to unlock some free outfits. This is really fun, and I'm glad the free outfits are back in this game. It is a staple of the series of after you finish the game, you can play through it again, except wearing usually ridiculous clothes. And there's always just something unique about going through a horror game wearing nothing but swimsuit. So I'm kind of glad to see this come back. But the dolls are really fun to find. Some of the dolls are in plain sight, so it's easy to find them, and some of them are really well hidden. It's really fun to try to find them. Another new mechanic, which is far more frustrating, is this is the game where they added in a hand trying to grab you as you pick up items. It's just randomly you are picking up an item, the character gasps, and you will see a hand kind of try to shoot out and grab you, and you just have to let go of the button to not be caught, and then you can pick up the item again. If the hand gets you, you lose the item. Now the hand only seems to show up for items which are like upgrades for your camera and such, but I just found this mechanic to be more annoying than scary. It didn't really startle me, it was just frustrating. Especially because finding items in this game can be a bit of a headache. You have to manage to shine your flashlight on them, and then a little blue light will show up, which indicates you can pick up an item here. Now, the camera will tell you there is something in this area by lighting a blue light indicating hey, there is something here. And I cannot tell you how many times I walked around in circles trying to shine my light on everything to find the hidden item to make the little blue glow show up. And more often than not, I had shown my light several times on it before it appeared. So I find this mechanic is a little bit finicky. It's not the best, most of the time it's not an issue, but I ran across several times while I was kind of frustrated just walking in circles trying to get the item to appear. And often it would appear just right beside me, which was just really annoying. But overall, I think the gameplay usually is fine, and I found it really fun to play, but it has some frustrations that I kind of wish weren't there. And now let's talk about the visuals. Overall, the game has a solid art style that is aging really well, and the game looks good. The character designs are pretty nice, the outfits are fun, and the environment looks really good. I did not have any issues with the light in the game, and I found overall the visuals to be pretty consistent, outside of occasional textures. For some reason, as part of the art style, the texture quality of the game is kind of inconsistent. So you can have doors that have very obvious pixelation in the texture, while right next to it you can have trash bags that are just pretty smooth and nicely textured. The texture isn't bad, it seems to be more part of the art style than being poorly made. Still, it's kind of just always stuck out to me because you are often focusing on things in camera, but overall the game looks really nice. The more pixelated texture actually give sort of a rough feeling to the walls and doors that have it, giving the area a bit of an eerie feeling. It just comes out well, I think. Now finally, the sound design. The song in the end cinematic is great. Overall, there's not a lot of background music, but the sound design of the environment is lovely. The voices sounded good and balanced. There was a lot of creepy whispering in the background. Now, I don't speak Japanese, so I didn't quite understand it, but you can hear it quite clearly. And overall, every place you went into had sort of an ambience in it, which was really nice. And the rare cases of music would stand out and were used to emphasize a part of the story or entice you to an area where you were supposed to go next. And my favorite thing is the menu audio did not blow out my ears like it did in Maiden of Blackwater, because it was just ungodly loud there. Here it is more balanced. So overall, I found the audio to be nice. So, is the game worth playing? Well, it is 2023 now. It just came out, and I think it's definitely worth playing, especially if you want to try out the series. In my opinion, Fatal Frame 2 and 3 were the best in the series. These are not accessible on PC. Mask of the Lunar Eclipse and Maiden of Blackwater are the two games that are accessible on PC, and I feel this game is a very good representation of what the earlier games were like. So if you want to try the series and see if you enjoy this type of gameplay and this type of exploration, this is the game you want to try it out with. I would recommend this game to anyone who wants to try out the series, wants to try a little bit of different horror, and especially those who are interested in more narrative-focused horror, where they don't mind reading diaries and listening to audio logs and generally piecing together a dark story. So for me, yes, the game is definitely worth playing, but is it worth it for you? Well, that is of course gonna be up for you, but is it gonna be worth it for you? Tell me about it in the comments. And tell me which features of a game are kind of the make or break for you. The story, the gameplay, the visuals, the sound? Is there something you feel like I left out or you would like me to cover better in future reviews of other games? And if you have any game recommendations or just generally want to talk about video games, join my Discord, it is in the description. It is a perfect place to talk about games and recommend them, and it also notifies you whenever I go live. But now, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day.